And welcome to the date. This is your man, your bro, otherwise known as you rocks, sharing another episode here. I have a couple of guests, the nom de plume of artist here. And of course, today, as I always do my post, folks, I like to take my time. And of course, it's the show about nothing per se. At the same time, it's the mundane. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the next post that I'll be coming up with, which is I titled "We Are Us." As you see the date, and we did have the African American Super Soldier, which was my last episode regarding Dujon Johnson and Malcolm Nance. Where are they now? Right,
Where?
these are the two African Americans that went to go and fight in Ukraine. They've been missing. MIA since last year, right? Detroit Man 62. Look at this, bro. Bro! And of course, I have to say, because this is the date, fair use. And of course, this guy here, this brother. Now look at this. Peace Corps workers in Ukraine are warned about racism in the country, according to a tweet by Sean. Not the Peace Corps warning black volunteers that Ukrainians might call them the nigger word, which I reserve to say with a hard R. Sean tweeted along with an excerpt from a Peace Corps guide to serving in Ukraine. The actual guide warns it's not uncommon for Ukrainians to refer to African Americans as niggers. This is your bro. Volunteers of color may be called a monkey or may see children's games with blackface. So, once again, I'm putting out the milk box on these guys, right? This bro right here, as brave as his black ass was, and this other bro, missing in action, both in their 60s. And of course, our super predator friend, Hillary Clinton. But we'll get back to that a little later. So, this episode, as I'm sure some of you are already hearing, this episode is about the hermaphrodite and what the public is afraid to talk of, which is the eunuch. So
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. So I have some guests there who are going to talk, and of course, speak up. Would you like to tell us a bit about yourself, if you want to, or if you're too shy? I'll start with you. I'll start with the artist known as you have an actual
Bam.
acronym. Bam. Bam. What you saying, Bam?
Well, one of my interests has been psychology and how the management of humankind has moved into the realm of science and medicine. We've even put procreation into the hands of medical doctors who can do whatever they want. And the Second World War, in my estimation, was set up by the medical technology professions in order to experiment with on the human body, human procreation, and to come out with an altered race. They called it Aryan, but it not necessarily is what we think they were aiming towards. And we are now experiencing 50, 70 years later the outcome of these experiments. We have people who are serving as presidents and leaders of the country, of the planet, of religions, who have been the outcome of experiments into gender alteration, transferring genders, transferring spirits, paranormal, and mixing it all together. And we're really coming up with what they've termed modernism or modernity, which in the art world has shifted us completely away from following the standards of high art and excellence in music and art and sculpture. And we're moving into, well, whatever feels good, whatever you want to do. Push the barrier, push the boundary. You have to do it better than the next artist. Do it more frequent, etc., etc. And when we put the medical profession and the profit-making industry into the same bag of modernism and modernity, here we are, right on the edge of sanity, of moving into chaos. And I think it's time for us to set ourselves back and rethink the whole concept of what it means to be gifted with life on this beautiful planet.
Well, is there any hope still? Because like I did mention in this episode, and welcome to the date. This is your boy Urux, otherwise known as the Bro. You know, that regular black guy that you see sometimes in the street. And once again, I just want to give you a little update. Once again, you can always pop by the date here on YouTube. As you can see, you can also buy me coffee right here. And I'm also on some of the greater channels that you should also check out. I highly recommend, if you are a book buff, check out the Internet Archive, where you get yourself everything you need to know what's going on in this world, because we know social media now is being policed and censored. So I often do my blogs and I will upload them on the Internet Archive. Also, I would recommend popping by on Getter, because most folks are no longer on YouTube, or, well, not say YouTube, but I mean, the other ones, FB, and people are talking about TikTok and all of this stuff. Well, this is where I go. I go to Getter and I get my news. And thank you, I got my 418 followers. Don't forget, you're my Illuminati, right? You can also pop by. And I like to share a lot about the Israelites. This is a reality. One thing I also want to take a look at is actually what Deacon Asaph from the Israelites were talking about, what happened to Rashim Carter. But going back to what Bam was saying, so are we in the middle of what we could say is a gender crisis? We'll be right back in a few seconds on the date.
A gender crisis.
Be careful out there. That arm is unstable. Not sure how long it's gonna hold. There's warning lights everywhere. Abort! Abort! We've lost comm. Look out. It's out of control. Are you okay?
I tell you, it kind of seems like I did it. Of course, that's the intro to a great show. As you see, last week we had the date organ made with our guest. That was Picasso with a J, Japhet, and the date Black Dead Presidents with our nom de plume auteur, and the Family Compact. Now, I'm just going to let you know where I'm coming from. Once again, I'm the data jockey, streaming educational, factual, unadulterated lessons from world Black history, finding solutions to surviving basic instructions before leaving the planet Earth. Informal documentary streaming, historical, educational media, fair act use disclaimer. This site is for educational purposes only. Fair use, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might make otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. And I reserve the right to say nigger, nigger, and nigga. So, as we continue on with our show this week, as I had mentioned, I wanted to bring up.
Is there hope?
Is there hope? Is there hope? You can tell me, Banff, is there hope? Because right now there seems to be a lot of confusion as to what's going on in this world, right? A lot of folks, the gender issue, I understand a word, Gonad worship is one of the words that's going on, and that's one of the issues, or one of these subjects I want to take on. You can also find me on BitChute, because BitChute I find is a different alternative to what we see sometimes on YouTube. Look at that, 123. And of course, you multiply those views, right? So I just wanted to give a little plug there. Now, Bav, you said there are changes happening. Will it get better? You mentioned Gonad worship. You want to tell me a little bit about what Gonad worship is?
We, as the human species, have shifted procreation and the act of procreation, which is for the purpose of creating another human being who contains our DNA. We've shifted that into a pleasure machine and profit making capability. And so we focus a lot of our time and energy and our hope for the future to find an appropriate mate who we can pleasure with rather than procreate children with. So it comes back to procreation, and it puts procreation onto a different platform, away from deity, away from sanctity, away from respect, into Hollywood debasement, and underpinning the original intention of creation, which was to actually have two people prepared and ready to care for the offspring that they were going to bring into being. And I'm told that there are some cultures who actually prepare the couple to call in an elevated soul, so that the, what they're bringing into being is not a miscreant or misunderstood relationship vis-a-vis the procreative act. So we have moved into worshiping our gender, worshiping our genitalia, worshiping the pleasure that we derive from each other, rather than sitting down and saying, now, what gives my life real depth and real meaning? How am I going to actually add an eternal element to what I think of every day, or how I use my time every day? And so, rather than looking at the relationship and the beauty of the rapport and the understanding and the mutuality of sharing time and efforts and passion together. And I'm talking about passion for truth, passion for the enlightenment, passion for a better world, passion for nature, right? And I, as a personal experience of mine, growing up in a family where I was absolutely put into a straitjacket, I had a chastity belt on me in my mind all of the time. However, the paradox is, when I graduated from grade 12, I insisted that I was going to go outside of the family to university. What I had learned is how to jump to conclusions, how to beat around the bush, and how to make assumptions about what other people were doing. So I became almost like a spy on how many times they'd used their genitalia, right? Mm-hmm. How many times have they worshipped at the gonads of the patriarch or his disciples, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than going in and saying, this is a beautiful world that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. You seem very well versed in everything you're saying. How far does this go back? Because my argument here is that we make it as so much more drama than it needs to be. Now, as in this post, as I'm scrolling for this next edition that will be coming up, I call this episode Be and Cause, right? Because the be and cause of everything. So in this, and of course, this is a pre-recorded episode that I will insert into this blog. I have a couple of topics I want to pick on, but there was some type of humor that I did find on the internet regarding this. I've been thinking, Roy, what if we tried being a little more kinky in our relationship, and we could start by getting you castrated? Now, I know that might seem extreme, but think about this. Think about it this way. Why would you need to have balls if you're going to be my slave from now on now? Oh, let's see what the other joke says. I can't believe your mistress actually removed your balls. Now, we don't know what the humor is here, but this is the reality of our world today. And my whole argument was, this has been going on since the beginning. It's not like we have, and of course, once again, parental guidance, but fuck you, right? This is reality. These are people. So this episode is actually, I would say, a parental guidance, if anything, but you're supposed to be over 16. Now, we've kind of eradicated what procreation is. But my whole thing is, you see this image here? Get used to it, folks. This is not the new family. This family's been around forever. And if you actually twist your mind, can you imagine? Now, if you put clothes on these people, you would see the regular couple, right? However, our society might have been lying to us for the longest time because this is more in our society than we like to believe. So imagine if you have a couple, and hey, bless these people, right? That's why I like Buck Angel, who's a retired porn actor, who's come out and is known as being what kids today would say transgender, but the man has an actual vulva. So this opened my eyes to a lot of the reality in our world that maybe we've been like this. Hey, maybe the Cunninghams on Happy Days, right? Reversed. Mary and Howard, right? But the point being, this is more in our society than we are more shocked to believe, right? So when you see this, and of course, this is a shocker, right? Because people will look at this and say, oh my God, that's so weird. But my point is, it's been in our world forever. You have any,
Yes,
any,
I have a reflection on that. You're right. It came to my attention in the 70s on the Phil Donahue show. He interviewed a couple. Now, they weren't very attractive.
this is Photoshop.
They aren't what we would call attractive, but they had entertained themselves in their relationship by crossing back and forth the gender line. So he became a woman sometimes, and she became a man for his woman, his femaleness, and that's 50 years ago. Okay, so it isn't new in our modern times since television was invented. I suspect it isn't new even in Old Testament times or Talmud or Quran times. I suspect that people have, once you step into the line, into the arena of using your body for your entertainment, your body for passing time together, your body for enjoyment of life on the planet, you then start using your imagination to create all kinds of techniques and ways to maximize your titillation, right? And some people use their body in order to have a panacea, a sleeping pill at night. They use it to relax, right? They use the procreative act not for what it was originally intended, but it's used for entertainment, for titillation, for excitement, for parties. Huh? Couples used to go into the bedroom. I didn't know what they were doing. I couldn't imagine that I would go to a party in order to meet someone, in order to show them my body. I don't need to go into a bedroom to show my body.
we have a very obsessed culture about body more so.
Yes,
But
yes.
and once again, I would say this is not a new thing if you consider
No.
like the gladiators and everything. But it once again that point being how genitalia is actually the real topic of why all of this is happening. Like you look at these photos, right? A lot of women would find this, and of course to be politically correct. And once again, this is a show for adults. We're not, trying to diss anybody or make anybody feel bad. We're just showing you some reality because I remember when I was going to school as a child many moons ago, we were taught about how you made babies, and it took spermatozoid and it took ovum, an egg, right? So that creates life. Now, folks come out here in this world and say, well, I was born a mistake. Saying God's a mistake, whether you believe in him or not, but your parents made a mistake. So if I ejaculated, my sperm made a mistake in the ovum, in the egg, right? So this is the blurry lines we live in. But while we look at these,
Is this the same person?
this is the same, like, okay, so let's look at a few names. Lauren Rex Cameron. Also notice the name. They always have some names in there. Is a transgender activist, author, photographer. He specializes in portraiture and self-portraiture, particularly his transition from female to male, lesbian, and transsexual bodies. It aims to demystify. So, once again, the aesthetic is there, but can this person procreate like the man they want to be? that's always the issue, right? But it seems some people will say it's vanity. Some people will say, well, it's our body, it's our right. Like, look at this. Like, I mean, we're not even trying anymore, right? This is one of the arguments. People are not even trying anymore. Then you've had people who have been back in centuries ago. Actually, let me read some of this. So this is 56-year-old teacher Gary Sconce. Yeah, I don't even feel like reading him. He just don't look that great. She looks nice here, or he looks nice. But April Ashley is one of the earliest known people to have sex reassignment surgery, and is a British model and restaurant hostess. Born as George Jameson, she relates in her books that she was raped, usually some type of trauma,
Right.
while
Yeah.
still an 11-year-old boy. At 25, having saved 3,000 pounds, she underwent a 7-hour-long sex reassignment surgery in 19. So this is the 60s.
In what year?
1960.
Okay.
Right? She underwent
that's-
significant pain and all her hair fell out, but the sex change operation was successful.
In
Interesting.
other words, this trauma that happened to her as a boy it was forced on her.
Yeah.
And her revulsion of her body because of pain made her decide she didn't want to be the man who perpetrated the pain. She would be the woman who accepted the pain.
Wow.
Further rape. And it's a shift. It's a whole. And I'm glad that no one has mentioned women talking. It received one Academy Award because someone somewhere decided that more people had to hear about women's pain. But the thing is, men have pain as well. Men experience this anal rape, which apparently can be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
4-year-old boys can be raped by an old woman who plays with their genitalia and makes them feel as if they aren't going to be a man if they don't get an erection with her. Huh? So we start creating this false identity of male or female relating to our genitalia
Mm-hmm.
and relating to procreation. I can be a woman or a man without even crossing into that arena, because there are people historically who have actually succeeded in other arenas that haven't. Ramakrishna got married, and he announced to his wife they weren't ever going to do the procreation thing. They were going to be chaste. And she said, "But dear, how am I going to be a mother?" And he said, "You will be the mother to my disciples. They will honor you and respect you, even though you have not lived according to the social parameters of their culture that you're living in." And athletes accomplish. They don't have to do those things. In fact, I'm told that in some eons, or in Greek culture, they knew that they would perform better if they were celibate for that period of time of the games.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
And so their winning or losing was outside of what today we assume is what we need.
Well, I feel it's exposed more so. And
Yeah.
I'll use the
Maybe.
two
Yes,
examples. You
yes.
mentioned the athletes. Like this, okay, so Balian Boschbaum was born a she. Okay. You see, even I'm like almost confused. So
Wow.
born a she, a former female pole vaulter in Germany, he was awarded second best female vaulter and whatnot. Sex assignment in 2008, underwent surgery to become a man. Here's my thing. I'm thinking, because everything is kind of blown out of the water, two things are happening. Number one, how many dirty magazines, Playboys, men have gotten themselves off to on somebody, and like Hollywood forever, on somebody that, hi, she looks attractive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and seductive.
Yeah, and seductive. So it's normal, if you have eyes to see, you would say this is attractive. But who else looks like her in Hollywood? And still today, who was this person? Another thing, the athletes. Kendall Jenner. What I believe is happening, because things like we saw, right? I would say the original nuclear family, which is the other two folks we were looking at previously here, that would be in this photo. Let me just get back here, right? So we have these folks, right? I'm thinking, what is it? Maybe it's possible that some of these folks have reversed back, and reversed again.
Mhm.
So we could have folks that look like this, but then this person can say, you know what, I'm gonna go back to be Caitlyn Jenner. My argument is maybe who Caitlyn Jenner, I'm gonna say the dead name, right? You say don't say, but the dead name, as an example, was formerly Bruce. Maybe this was Bruce all along. Maybe Bruce really looked like this, and then Bruce, had to be Bruce like this. And then Bruce is like, no, I don't want to be like this anymore. I want to be back to Caitlyn, because Caitlyn was always like this. You see what I'm saying? So we're probably having a reverse. Like I'm starting to think that we have transgenders who are actually reversing. So maybe they might have been born a woman, by circumstance, by anything, circumstance happening at home, was forced to live a man,
Mhm.
and at a certain age said, you know what, screw that. I like my coochie, and or I like having my
Mhm.
billy goat, right? And this is
Mhm.
and all of this to say, because as we go back on this, as we go back on this shot here, right? Maybe
Mhm.
maybe this, because as I'm saying, she was born a she. Maybe she was already a he,
Yeah.
and
Right.
testosterone is
Right.
very good when you get puberty blockers from a young age. Um, if you give it to a young, pretty boy, he makes a very beautiful woman. If you
Mhm.
give it to a not so attractive girl, she makes a very handsome man.
Mhm.
So I'm starting to think maybe we're actually even going through a double psyop where this is who the person actually is, but they're telling you they lived like this for a minute and now they want to go back to this.
Can we go into the arena of their motivation? It is possible. And initially, when I heard about these people who were reversing back and forth, I said, maybe they're blaming their gender for not being successful. Maybe they believe that they could have better relationship, a better career, be accepted more be more popular in society if it's their gender that is keeping them out. It's their gender that is the cause of their failure. And so they say, I'm going to change it. I want to be a success. I will change. And then they discover, oh, no, it wasn't my gender. There was something else.
Right.
Something else. Maybe I can, but they don't take the next step. And society doesn't take them the next step because they would be moving out of laboratory, medical procedure, and science. They'd be moving into socializing, moving into conversation, moving into truth telling in their stories, moving into more of an oral tradition where um, old people get together with young people. Middle-aged people come in and ask questions and entertain
Right.
and contribute to the wholeness of gender and ageism and what else is there? Popularity and
But
wealth.
it seems that we've set a low bar, right? Because and this is why I do this episode, this show. Once again, thank you for coming by the date. Feel free to buy me coffee. Thank you. Give us like, share, and all that nonsense. But I'm not here for the popularity. I'm just here to let you know what time it is. So let's
It's
say,
the
for
date.
example, Buck Angel. Now, Buck Angel here is a well-known transgender pornography actor. So I did the research to take a look at one of their films, and yes, this man professes and knows and says he has a vagina. He's been working with his vagina for years, and not that he regrets it, but he actually counsels a lot of young youth who are going through this dilemma or created chaos of what they call what is it? They call it, what's the medical term? I'm not a doctor here, but they call it not gender confusion. That's an old archaic term. What's the term now they use?
Gender altering or
no, when the mental condition of it,
oh,
the mental condition, it's not on the tip of my tongue. I'll have it in a bit.
it could be gender confusion
Gender confusion,
or
basically.
gender role confusion.
Well, when someone goes in to see a doctor, they are diagnosed as there's a diagnosis for it being gender dysfunction. I think that's what, or gender confusion.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the terms now, because they're changing terms every day, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
So this guy, Buck Angel, he basically mentors young people who are going through this because it was first known as a mental condition, right? It was known as a gender issue where I should find the word, but wait, let me just get back. So Buck Angel, a famous figure in LGBT community. Buck Angel is an adult filmmaker and male transgender. While he's now successful in the world of adult film, he admits it hadn't been easy. No kidding. He lived with his secret for years. That's the thing. You can live,
Yes.
families can
Yes.
live like
Yeah.
that couple for years
Yeah.
and get their kids the way, into that. So he admits it hasn't been easy. He lived with his secret for years and worked as a female professional model, unhappy with his identity and existence. Buck
Right.
Angel was the 2000 winner of Adult Video News Award Transsexual Performer of the Year. He's now an LGBT advocate, lecturer, educator, and writer. And transsexual performing, we don't even use that word anymore.
Is he now happier, more pleased with his life, and is his life more meaningful? Because I think that when we focus on only one part of our life, i.e., the physical body part,
Mhm.
we realize there's something missing here.
It's
We're-
known.
You know, and people only look at the surface
There you
and the beauty and or the ugliness rather than saying, who are you? What beautiful person have you become? How can we share a little time together?
Buck suffered from vaginal atrophy, which is he mentions, and this is one of the things he teaches. Of course, myself, I'm not trans, but I
But he
learned
had to go to a doctor to
He had
find
to-
out what it was.
why his vagina was literally closed, and this was many years, and this taught me that okay, number two, how many people do we see in our society every single day that look like him, that look like her, that look like her, that looked like her who had a baby, right?
And
He
that's
decided
him.
to take male hormone
And
therapy.
that's him.
Yeah,
Her?
that's her,
Yeah.
and she had a baby. Now, here's my thing. Maybe it's already a she here,
Yeah.
and then they say, well, now I'm a she, but she had a baby. So you have something called beards. They call them like Buck Angel, a beard. They can have babies. So look at all the presidents, all those fat balding guys, right? In history books, in magazines, and philosophers and all that, a lot of them look like this guy.
Mm.
Hello. Not to freak everybody out. Like, look at this guy, man. He's probably not as attractive here, but look at all the hair. That's why I like to call it the Robin Williams. That puberty blocker and
Well,
testosterone for women
Once
Boom.
once
makes you
again,
hairy.
we're moving into the arena of science, medical thing, inserting pharmaceutical, including inserting testosterone. Huh? Testosterone makes a person grow hair, doesn't it?
So much. That's why I look at that. I mean, and respect to Robin Williams,
and you
right?
can-
I'm just like freaked out when I see hairy. I was like, how
And
come
you
these
can-
guys are so hairy?
You can have hair implanted, and you can also have hair extracted.
Yes. And we know testosterone for formerly known as women. So we know if you don't get checked out, that's what I was saying. Like young transgender kids probably like don't know you can get vaginal atrophy because no one's ever talked about it before. Buck Angel, right? He brought it up and says, hey. This is what you got to do. You got to go see a doctor. You don't have a penis. You don't have an erection. So no, it's not normal for that whole area to close up on itself.
So, do you believe that it's a possibility that they,
Mhm.
the medical society around Buck Angel, was experimenting with creating non-gendered people?
I would say forever since like the age of awareness or
Is
the
it?
age of enlightenment, right? Especially when we look at all the World's Fair of the last century, we know they had baby incubators and baby machines. They also had the orphan train. So kids must have been messed up, probably had families, just like the couple we saw earlier, reversed and just moved on. It makes you wonder, like, how is it how many people had 12, 14 children in the family in
Yeah.
vitro, right?
Okay, one of the umbrella concepts that I go back to is the one from Sir Francis Galton,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yes,
I think was the 1800s,
1800s with his cousin
1873.
Darwin, right?
Right? Galton wanted to do the nature nurture question and have it answered,
Right.
and I believe that we toyed with that idea over the centuries. And the question they would be asking is sexual desire and pleasure seeking connected to our genitalia? We will create some eunuchs who will have non functioning erectiles and non functioning vaginas. Okay, both will be closed off. And hopefully, we can use enough twins to discover whether or not it is nature. Is it built into our anatomy as human beings,
Mhm.
or are we taught, programmed by our education to become that gender?
It's almost
And
like
I think that's what they were playing with.
they were playing with it for a long time, and it almost reminds me like pretty much like the pandemic we just had, right?
Right.
It kind of comes in and it tells you, hey, you got to get used to this new world, and we call the rules, right? And you got to take what you take and leave it as such. They just basically came in and said, this is what it is. This is what we're living through now. Look, if we could blame it, maybe blame it on this guy, John William Money, right? He was the one who did the surgery, famous surgery, basically burning off the genitalia of one of his clients. They were a very well-known story.
What years?
So this guy, 1921 to 2006. So
1921.
right, and the sex reassignment of David Reamer. David Reamer, this kid here, a Canadian man born male but raised as a girl, and intervention after his penis was severely injured during a botched circumcision in infancy. He eventually later killed himself, committed suicide. So uh, this doctor, of course, Money persuaded the baby's parents that sex reassignment surgery would be in his best interest.
When was it done?
This was done in 1966. So, and of course, at the age of 22 months, he underwent an oreectomy, which instead of turning it into, what it is, they basically cut everything and lose everything. So, in which his testicles were surgically removed, he was reassigned to be raised as a female, and his name changed from Bruce to Brenda. So, Money was the one, in a nutshell, that brought all of this on, right? And gave the intersex medical interventions, as they would call it. And it had become the accepted and medical sociological standard, right? Because they call it, by the time this deception was discovered, the idea of a purely socially constructed gender identity and infant intersex medical interventions had become accepted medical and sociological standard. So this was, of course, in the 70s, right? When we know that opinions on pedophilia opened up, especially after the great Summer of Love. I like to call Woodstock probably more of a rape stock because of all those people there. Where did they go and take a crap?
Right.
Where did they pee? There were babies born there.
Right.
I consider today like more like a what you call a ritual, a satanic ritual. If you look at it today, because we always hear the falsehood of the Summer of Love, 1960, what 7, 9, between 7 and 9.
And they are completely out of control when they take LSD.
Exactly.
Or mix alcohol with the other.
And LSD was the CIA's drug.
And that's what they were doing. And they would just they wouldn't have control over their body.
This is the guy, opinions on pedophilia. Money participate. This is the doctor that created what, or at least spearheaded in good old Canada as usual. We're good for that stuff, right? Which is today known as gender dysmorphia. That was the word I was looking for, actually.
Dysmorphia.
Yes, it's the word is gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, GID is not a mental illness, now they call it. Rather, what needs to be addressed are the anxiety, stress, and depression to go with it. So many brave men and women have taken the step to be open about their true selves. Of course, you're questioning and doubting God. I don't know why God would want to make you so confused coming into this world. The road to embracing their true sexuality is not often easy. So these were the people, as you see here, and this was one I wanted to really pick on that because
Well, it's
when we go back,
our automatic reaction is if something goes wrong, we look for someone to blame, and God has been the catch-all for blame. It's either our parents or God. And you know, in the final analysis, it has more to do with who you are and how much effort you have put into believing in yourself long enough to actually specialize in something. And you have specialized in this.
we're trying. We're trying. I mean, as we see, and once again, thank you for joining in. The date. This is your bro, that black guy, you know. And this is the show even for
Buy
the
him
white.
coffee.
Yeah, and this is the show even for the white supremacists out there. You know, and there's a lot of them who are actually turning that leaf, and they're actually like following Israelites in a weird way because, well, there's a deeper truth to what they understand, right? But this is to wake up everybody, right? Because
Right.
we're not
Yes.
trying to, like, you know, the way we're going. It
God
seems
created the whole creation.
the right to
The
creation,
whole creation
right?
is there. Yes.
So when we have transgender men, as we see here, who become pregnant and they face health challenges. This is by the artificial womb. Once again, this shit's been around forever. So that's why I would be like, don't be surprised, folks, when you hear, oh, they're gonna, you know, have this new thing of in vitro. That's already part of it, and the fact that they can make an artificial womb. So look, transgender men who become pregnant face social and health challenges. So we literally don't need the original woman anymore. Pregnancy and childbirth were very male experiences for me, said a 29-year-old respondent in a study reported Friday on obstetrics, right? It's how do you pronounce that? It's one of those words, and gynecology. When I birthed my children, I was born into fatherhood. Let's get a little close up on this person here. Because now they're talking, and of course, Canada spearheading it, I'm sure, right? If this statement at first seems perplexing, it is less so when you realize the person talking is a transgender man, who we know by biology, still someone who has transitioned from a female identity to a male or masculine identity. So here's the thing. It's not that you're experiencing birth as a man, I would say. You're still experiencing it as a woman because you still got the tools, right? So he's one of 41 participants in a study of how it feels to be male and pregnant. I don't want to fucking feel male and pregnant. I know I have a vas deferens. I have what we call the ducts that create the spermatozoa. For a man to ejaculate is probably one of the best feelings if you know what it is. If you don't know what it is, why on earth are you going to try and say, well, I want to know how it feels to have that? I don't know how that could work, knowing that you feel your body. But I digress. Everybody's allowed to do what they do, and it's a free world. But pregnancy as a transgender man is unlike any other kind. No one expects a man to be pregnant. But this is just the words. They're playing with the semantics. Because at the end of the day, and I'm not going to get into reading it, that's why I encourage my viewers, read this stuff, right? Because he's saying, okay, like Pregnant Butch. I like this. You know, the author of a new graphic memoir, masculine-looking woman named A.K. Summers, said to be one of the worst parts of her pregnancy was that exaggerated the most female aspects of her body, enlarging her breasts and filling out her hips. Right? I mean, you hear the language here. You could just pass as a fat man. Now, guess what, folks? This is not new. That's why I say, if you look at even some of the old photos of all the, some of the patriarchs with their round fat bellies and their balding heads from all the testosterone, right? You start to see that, oh, maybe, I mean, of course, no one would want to believe it like that, right? We'll all be like, well, no, that can't be. We still have normal men and women, but the facts are, once again, it's not what it seems, right? And maybe
And
yeah, go on.
here's one of the points that I started thinking about
Mhm.
when you were talking about the pregnant male,
Mhm.
right? Is that when we live our life with self-esteem, an adequate uh, uh, an adequately formed self-image
Mhm.
that we are comfortable with
Mhm.
and happy with, and we don't start blaming our gender and God and other. If we really learn to appreciate the life that we have and the few things that are good about it, and work on the talents that we actually have. When we're contented and pleased with that, we don't go searching for another experience outside. I don't need to have the feeling and understanding of how it would be to have a male piece of anatomy that I'm missing. As a child, I wanted to be heard when I spoke, and to actually be respected for what I knew. I wasn't trying. I would say, oh, maybe you could hear what I said if I had one of these, and I use my thumb in that area with my family. I would say it to my brothers. Maybe if I had one of these, you'd listen to me. But I think that I was born with wisdom,
Mhm.
and no one recognized it. Perhaps I was in a body that they didn't accept, but that was their problem, not mine.
The eunuchs of the Ottoman Empire, the black castrated slaves tasked to guard bedroom doors of royal women. So the castratis. Castratis
Oh,
are the
right.
singers. The
Yes.
eunuchs are
Italian.
castrated African men kidnapped. Right. So eunuchs. They're trying to turn, I guess, a lot of our Israelite rappers into that, right? Because black eunuchs played a key roles at courts at royal. So we see some history here. This goes back, right? And the eunuchs, uh, quote unquote, a lot of them became what we call castratos, right? The
Right,
castrato singers.
right. Well,
Uh,
it was a socially assigned role, and people, whoever they were, parents perhaps, or owners of the slaves, decided this is the role we'll put that child into. We have someone, a vacancy coming up. We'll assign that role.
hmm,
So it wasn't really emerging out of their own sense of themselves. And
right.
and our concept of what it means to be human and to be who we are,
Hmm.
that is a more modern idea. Not everyone had that right or privilege in society. Only a few in ancient times. And they didn't even know that that's what they were, because they probably
Castrato.
have the vocabulary to.
The vocabulary to articulate it, maybe?
Yes,
A male
yes.
singer, castrated in boyhood so as to retain a soprano or alto voice. The practice of castration was banned in 1903. That's what they want you to believe. Whenever they say something, always think of the opposite. So these are all the folks, Farinelli, look, all these guys here. And notably, a lot of people are starting to realize the truth. A lot of the singers that we see today, because of the reversal, the male ones that are supposedly male, one notably, Michael Jackson, is known that he was castrated.
Was he?
Yes, yes, he was a castrato. That's why he was able to do that little leg thing and grab himself between the crotch and go, ooh. I know if I did that, I'd hurt my balls. Most men would do that, they would hurt. It was like, when we were young, we were like, how come it doesn't hurt him? Yes, he was a castrato. That's why he was able to reach those notes. Now, as for him getting into the kids and all that, what I believe, along with having your balls cut off so you can hit a note, getting raped possibly by the family, by other well-known people, yeah, you're probably gonna end up being childlike, right? So that's known. They said when
Well,
they got him, they took
you
off his
then
clothes. They
you
saw it.
you then, once you've recovered from the suffering, you then have a bit of revenge to get,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They have the equal
Equal.
score
exactly.
and payback time. But if we've actually taken procreation seriously, we've actually had a child with two parents and four grandparents who are welcoming the child onto the planet, honoring the gift of life, and actually raising them without having poking and prodding and having doctors cutting and inserting and readjusting. And perhaps we should just honor the natural unfolding of the human being.
That's what it should be, but it looks like it's been hacked by the
Entertainment,
sorcery, money,
and entertainment.
sorcery, pharmaconetics. Like we see here, the Italian word castrato means castrated. However, the term castrato was given specifically to Italian singers who had been castrated before puberty to retain their boy-like vocal range. Purpose of castrato singers, just like film, television, the world is a stage. Castrato singers were used to replace female vocalists in the 16th century.
Right.
Following a ban on female singers on the stage in 1588, females had previously not been allowed to sing in churches, but Pope Sixtus V extended this ban in 1588 to involve singing on any stage. This was done in an effort to protect the morality of women.
Yeah, women were hidden and guarded like precious jewels in the family. Even the neighbors didn't see the woman. She was shielded and protected. But we look at it now as a perversion, and it probably wouldn't work today because women have said, no, let us out of this cage.
Right. Because you guys are just crazy, even in dresses.
We're tired. Yeah, we're tired of being held hostage by these Gonad worshippers.
Right.
Because that's the only
Gonad.
outlet we have. They're the only people in our life who get attention and served and catered to the final detail.
Wow.
But when you realize that those were the gender roles, and actors and actresses and theater and singing and management were not, those roles were not assigned to women.
Castration for the purpose of a singing career to emasculate or eviscerate someone was officially made illegal in 1861. I'm going to cherry pick here. However, the practice did not truly die out until 1878, when the Catholic Church banned the recruitment of castrati in their choirs. They probably still didn't. And because, and this is an interesting part, this is Hollywood right here. This is because castration for this purpose was usually done in secret anyway. Poor families would castrate their young sons in hope that they would become famous.
Right. In other words, it was a contribution, a future contribution to the family to have someone who was famously accepted as a singer on stage.
Wow. Which brings us to intersex. As we hear on the day today, of course, is now the 21st. Happy spring. This is now, what month are we? We're still in March, and it's still 2023. Intersex.
What is that?
The intersex people are individuals born with any of several sex characteristics, including chromosome patterns, gonads, genitals, that, according to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, do not fit typical binary notions of male or female bodies. Now, once again, let's see. Let's go for the history.
Are we talking about hermaphrodites? Because
hermaphrodites
has been
in a
happening
wall
for centuries as well.
There you go.
Nothing new.
And that's what we see here, hermaphroditus. That's her right there. And the first half of the century. So they always try to make it today because we have a lot of, I like to say, young, dumb, and full of cum kids. They don't know or they don't know how to read. But there's the timeline and the history. And we see from early history, societies have been aware of intersex people, right? So it's not new. Some of the earliest evidence is found in mythology. Greek historian Diodorus Siculus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure all of these Greek guys, all of these philosophers, especially when you saw them naked in the statues, right? They're famous, you know, when you see these statues with their genitals out, right? I'm sure a lot of them, as we see here, were probably twisted here, right? As we see in the Be and Cause. So the intersex, as we see here, just so go through it quickly, wrote of the mythological Hermaphroditus, Hermaphroditus or Hermaphroditos was the child of Aphrodite and Hermes. Right? So you guys got to know a little bit about that history, Aphrodite and Hermes. According to Ovid, he was born a remarkably handsome boy whom the Naiad Salmachus attempted to rape and prayed to be united. It's always about the bum, eh?
In other words, the gonad worshiper wanted to pleasure himself.
Exactly. Hypocrite.
What happens if we do not activate children's genitalia? Is it possible that there are secretly a group or a group in society who have, over the eons, believed that children's genitalia have to be activated? And so they have these pleasure zones activated at age 2, 3, 4.
Right.
And what I asked the question, what would happen if the pleasure zones aren't activated? Would it mean that they wouldn't even consider the possibility of dominating another person?
Well, I mean, definitely we know. I feel science has a lot to do with that too. Because if you see here, I'm looking at these agenesis and all these type of what they would call birth defects. I'm sure a lot of this in history wasn't as prevalent as it is now, because a lot of it, once again, is probably more man-made, just like we saw with the last lockdown and all of that pandemic. It's man-made. They're trying to tell you it was a monkey or a bat. Somebody screwed a bat and got the vid. Like, no, they're always trying to make it like we did it.
Yeah.
They're trying to say God does this. God gives you androgyny insensitivity syndrome. God gave you 5 alpha reductase. God gave you mixed gonadal. Like, you see, this is where I'm coming from.
Okay, it's based on the assumption. When we talk about it being a birth defect, it's based on the assumption that everything that exists has to be perfect. Okay? If it's not perfect, there's something wrong with it. When in fact, it is what it is. Right? The apple that ends up on the other side of the branch and has a little bump in it because it ripens right too close to the branch, it still has the succulent taste, the delicious flavor, right? It still is a beautiful apple. You can make a delicious apple pie with it, and the defect doesn't come through to the apple pie. You can have a successful outcome even if whatever you put into it is not perfect. The first painting that you do, the first time you hit the piano keys, the first time you strum a guitar, you aren't perfect. It isn't nothing is perfect on the planet. It is what it is. And that's the perfection.
Let's take a look at this.
Goedenavond. Hoe volledig is het rapport Deetman nu blijkt dat de katholieke kerk een misbruikte jongen castreerde?
Now this is just a German show that's talking about how homosexual boys were once castrated in Holland. Now this has a little bit of I think it has something.
Totaal vormeloos en gezwollen was en moeilijk uit zijn woorden kwam en vertelde dat hij door mijn broer was gezonden.
Moes stuurt Henk naar een bekend seksuoloog die hem hormooninjecties geeft. Daar knapt hij zo van op dat hij besluit de paters die hem lieten castreren aan te gaan klagen.
Jarenlang misbruikte in verschillende weeshuizen. En niet hij alleen, maar heel veel weeskinderen werden misbruikt. En hij noemde het zelf een soort Sodom en Gomorra wat aan de gang was. En hij had een enorme woede.
Van jongs af aan woont Henk, net als zijn broers en zus, in een weeshuis, omdat zijn ouders uit de ouderlijke macht zijn gezet.
It's always like in an orphanage, right? Once again. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is just one of the documentaries out there. Because a lot of folks are like, well, The Nazis weren't all that bad. This is just another example of the shit they were doing back then. So I implore you, yeah, definitely go take a look, if you must, to see exactly what's going on here, right? And once again, as we see the history on this episode being, of course, the B and cause. Just before we wrap up, once again, I'd like to thank you for popping in, and also, in this broadcast, we always encourage that you read. So as you see, I make it, and of course, our episode will be squeezed in right over here, the Gonad worship portion, right? And the selected readings from your bro this week, as you can get them on like PDF and whatnot. Other, as we call, well, I would not say whatnot, but I would say the Internet Archive, the place you want to go. As you see in my previous episodes, a great place to go. Let's just run back here. So we've got some books for you to read. So this one is, let's see here. This one is The Black Image in the White Mind, Media and Race in America. So this is one of the books here that you could take a read. We also happen to have, what else? What other goodies we have? Hey, it's like Halloween, but Halloween's all the way next year. But or in October. This is a book on Roger Monroe, Trip into the Supernatural, Meeting the Spirits. This guy here, and of course in the next episode, maybe if we have a little time, he was around when Mackenzie King was around. And this guy was the guy who basically spoke about what was to be the Operation Paperclips and the Project Bluebeam. He was part of the Illuminati back in Montreal back in the 1940s. And he talks about how deep it goes. Roger Monroe, late Roger Monroe. You might want to read that. Puberty blockers. We'll talk about this in a few seconds. And what other juicy books we have here? This one here, Eyes Wide Open, Fiona Barrett on child trafficking, ritual abuse. Brilliant. You might want to take a look at that. And also, what other goodies? Don't you love this show? I know you do. I know you do. So, and this one here, The Power of Prayer, 1856. Of course, this is something for you to read. And of course, The Truth About the Ku Klux Klan of Forgotten History. And this book here, please feel free to download and take a look at The Invention of the Ish People by Shlomo Sand. This is one of a very great books if you want to know a little bit more of where you come from or where anybody comes from, right? So just before we wrap up, of course, these are some of the stories that you will be seeing in the next episode. The influence of opium and cocaine panic in Canadian drug policy, as now you might be able to get blow from your pharmacy. Aren't you looking forward to that, along with your ecstasy and mushrooms? Right? Isn't that a great country? And of course, you can get medically assisted suicide and donate your organs. And maybe somebody, German doctor, can attempt to reverse your death and resurrect you while you're at it. So, puberty blockers. Puberty blockers, as we see here, the truth, the secret truth delivered to you. The shock heard around the world. Evil nonsense rules this day. A big bright street has pierced the dark clouds. Okay, all of this. What does the court ruling on puberty blockers mean for trans teens? However, under the new ruling, children under the age of 16 may obtain a court ruling to override this standard. Cut to the chase. Fortunately, this court ruling may spare children life-altering consequences of puberty blockers. This may include a loss of bone density, which develops during puberty, stunted growth, underdeveloped sex organs, and, ding, 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 infertility. Well, while there are few studies on the effectiveness of resuming puberty, post-pubertal suppression, studies have shown at least some loss in fertility. Even if puberty resumes, certainly a loss of infertility is not an expected outcome of pausing puberty, which is what gender dysphoric teens are told puberty blockers will accomplish. So, quick history. Gender identity disorder was the original diagnosis. Technical terms, psychological and medical professionals historically understood this was a problem in the mind, not in the body. However, the updated DSM-V was released May 2013. One notable change is the alteration of the diagnosis of gender identity disorder. See, the diagnosis is always different now. and lighter. The new diagnosis is simply called gender dysphoria. This was not due to an advance in medical science or even in the case studies, but due to pressure from activists. Right? And they lobbied the American Psychological Association, APA, to change or remove categories labeling transgender people in psychiatric manual, arguing that terms like gender identity disorder characterize all trans people as mentally ill. Well, it's a court ruling. So this is happening in the UK.
Imagine.
And yeah, this is what's happening. So,
oh God, when will we be forced to be born riding a bicycle? Right? And if you're not born with a bicycle, you're deformed. You're defective.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they're saying. So what with that we see. This is what, of course, puberty blockers are there to, once again, halt puberty. And a boy, it will halt it for him to, basically for his genitalia and his hormones to kick in. So he can forever look very feminine. And for women, they will take the testosterone along with puberty blockers to grow hair. So this is where we are at today. And so far, we see that it's picking up steam, but I get a feeling it's going to phase out more so before, if you give a generation of kids who won't have babies, by the time they realize they cannot ejaculate, they cannot orgasm, they're going to be pissed off. So I give it another decade or so, because right now they're taking advantage of the millennials to do this. Gabrielle Union, who's a Gen Xer, a well-known actress, she's married to a very well-known, I don't know if it's basketball. I never really knew what her husband's name is, but he's a basketball player, Dwayne Wade. And they have a daughter, Zaya, who was revealed that she's transgender. And of course, the parents are very well known. They're very well known. Once again, he's a ball player and she's an actress. So they've turned their son into a woman, which is all a girl, which, hey, all good, right? But they're trying to push laws. So Gabrielle Union says Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has messed with the wrong people after the Republican governor signed the bill into law Friday banning gender-affirming health care for minors. So you're banning gender-affirming. So you can't even be sure. You just have to say it is what it is. There is an army that rebukes you, that does not guarantee, that does not agree with you, and that will not lie down while this fascist rule is instituted. Union told me Saturday at the Independent Spirit Awards. And that's just one state. There are several states who are doing the same thing, and they will be met with resistance. People are not going to take this lying down. They're just not. So if you thought this was going to be a cakewalk, you're in for a rude awakening. Union and her basketball star husband, Dwayne Wade, have become fierce advocates since their 15-year-old daughter, Zaya, revealed she's transgender. So the daughter, without trying to get into this, and now they're talking almost threatening, the daughter.
You have a picture of the daughter?
Yes, we do.
How old is she now?
The daughter is, let's see here. The daughter is now, if I'm correct, 13, if I'm correct. Let's see if we can find a picture here. They're probably popular.
Was she raped?
Well, there are speculations now. There are speculations, a lot of speculation.
Just being a father and just seeing our child grow up every day and doing what you're supposed to do as a parent is to make sure that you sit back and, you see what it is in life that they want to do, and you try to go there with them and try to help them mold them into what it is they want to be and who they want to be. So we're just doing our part, as parents. And we love our kids, and we get to see them every day. That's what people on the outside don't get to see, but we know them and we see them all the time. So.
Yeah, and we believe them when they tell us who they are.
What do you say to a dad out there whose daughter has just come home and said, I'm trans? What do you say to that dad?
Well, I say the moment when you were in the hospital and you grabbed your daughter and you looked at your daughter and all the things that went through your mind, all the emotions that went through your mind, and how much love filled your heart at that moment. Don't let that ever leave you, no matter what. Like, the one thing as parents, what we do is we find our mini-me's and we try to make them just like us. We just understand, like, our kids are going to be who they are. It's our job to help mold them and help try to, push them in the right places that they want to go, but just remember that moment, what you said in that hospital that day they were born.
Yeah, right. I know when my son was born, the first thing he did, he took a piss. He took a big streamlined piss right out of the womb. I cut the umbilical cord of his mother. He came out, opened an eye, and took a long piss. The doctors and I all agreed he was a boy.
And he was pissed off.
And he was pissed off, exactly. But he's
With
still
the
a boy
whole
today.
convolution.
And this is in 1996. So Dwayne Wade is younger than me, and Gabrielle, she's all part of our generation per se. But here's the thing: a lot of folks are saying maybe these folks are actually reversed. Ever think of that? Yes, it's possible. Maybe she, he, and once again, like we saw with the couple earlier, right? Our genitalia couple. Imagine them. Imagine she's hung. Imagine he's bush, right? And let's look at the kid and once again, you want to do what you want to do to your kids, go for it. I'm just saying, once again, history and time will be the deciding factor. Let's see if I can find, because you don't know the kid, right? You've never seen. So, come on, Google. You can do better than that. Let's see here. Maybe they're blocking her picture. Let me see here. Search the web for, there we go. So, this is the daughter, Zaya Wade. Maybe we can get some better images here. So this is who she is now. Or there's not even anything of her before. Well, maybe this is before. But yeah, this is their daughter now. So this is what, they turned the son into. So this is actually something, and of course we see this happening a lot within the Israelite community. A lot of, and hey, it's all good, but you know what? White people ain't gonna like us more for it. So you can get all twisted, gender bender, all that. You know what? The real hardcore supremacists don't give a fuck. And they don't do this shit. You don't see no Chinese people pulling this stuff. You don't see Arabs doing this. You don't see this. And if you do, there's a price they pay. So, of course, us as being the pushover community, the pushover people,
the avant-garde,
we're expected to pull we're going to expect it to be bending, switching, dissing, thatting. So, don't be surprised. Actually, just before we wrap up, and once again, thank you for joining in. We have Banff, who's one of our great enlightened guests. I'd like to have you come back again if you're interested. Because this is what makes the show what it is. And once again, the show's not about trying to be, how we say, as opinionated, more so just informative.
Right.
And
we're not trying to be correct
No.
or perfect. The information needs to be disseminated.
Exactly.
And some clarity put in.
Yeah. At least when you see the information and you see it in front of your face, right? So men in dresses and heels, this is the new thing, right? So, hey, I'm an actor. I've had to play roles, and actors always have to pull weird stuff like this, But
they even have to put spacesuits on and open their eyes as they're flung through the air.
Yeah. Well, you wanted to know what was always inside or underneath, what do you call a kilt? Scottish kilt?
Yes, I have. I've always wanted to know. Do they wear underclothes?
Do they wear underclothes? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. It's something. Let's see.
I've actually asked Scotsmen wearing their kilt in public.
Let's see.
There's a secret I want to know.
Do Scottish wear underwear under their kilts? Well, they don't tell you. They just kind of show you. I think, maybe, I don't know. It's not like I should care to watch this either. But, I don't like what's happening. You see, this is why the internet's changing now. They're actually, what we call, they're pulling some type of censorship.
Right.
And now they've got this damn EI thing. I signed up. You know what? You suck, EI or AI. You suck because you're not giving me the truth. I noticed that. I've been, there. You could see there are certain things that are just like not there anymore, right? So, what do Scots wear under their kilt? Is the question most critical. Is there an answer? Hey, AI, give me the answer.
Maybe some do and some don't.
Maybe
and they want to be mysterious.
What do Scots wear under their kilt? Well, final words. That's the final word. Oh, wait a minute. Now the most awaited question. There we go. I think we found the answer. What do Scots wear under their kilt? Let's pull this up. Okay. Now the most awaited questions. As the saying goes, a true Scot wear nothing under the kilt. Most Scottish men do not wear anything beneath the kilt. You might think that's going commando is not a good option, seeing the fact that kilts are smaller in size, but it's fair to say they have their reason. For example, kilts do not reveal the pelvic region at all due to the pleats and thick piece of clothing.
Right.
An average kilt has 74 yards of tailored fabric that is well draped and fitted on the body due to the thickness of a cloth. Scots wears underwear beneath. Due to the thickness of the cloth, if a Scot wears underwear beneath the kilt, it gets scorching, sweaty, and unimaginable. Okay, so that makes sense.
Right.
Now
so
things have changed.
they don't have to wash their underwear
Yeah.
or have dirt going into it.
Correct. So that's one of the great lessons we've learned today. Overall. And is there any other
Open
thoughts?
air, easy breezy.
Easy breezy? Any other thoughts you wanna bring up? At least as we wrap this episode. I mean, once again, I'm very happy you've come by to give your take on Gonad worship, and maybe next time I'd like to talk a little bit about Mackenzie King, because I do know he was with the occult, and hey, maybe him too was a little reversed up. And this guy, December 17th, 1874 to July 22nd, 1950, was a Canadian statesman, politician who served as the 10th Prime Minister of Canada for look who they pull up, right? For 3 non-consecutive terms, 1921 to 26. That's like the old, like First World War shit. 26 to 30, 35 to 48, Second World War shit, a liberal. So this guy was known, not only just being throughout the Depression and Second World War, but he also is the longest prime minister and also known for the occult, right? It's known, right? They said he used to do what we call seances, and was also part of Madame Blavatsky. So on another episode, I'll be coming around to that. But there's a lot of juicy history as to what's going on with Canada right now in regards to what this great prime minister did and once was in our government, right? There's something to be said. So, once again, I'd like to thank all you folks for popping by and putting up with the gibberish and the mundane right here on the date with our guest Banff. And of course, you know what? Maybe I should take a chance to show your art, because you are an artist. If I can find where am I here? Okay, let's see if I can find your art, because I do know you are on Instagram. Am I correct?
I think so.
And you or actually, I have some of your art on my Instagram, but maybe we can promote you if I can ever get in, because it's been a while. I do. Let's see if I can log in with Facebook here. I do. How would I say? Promote the art of folks. So if you have any art or you have something you want to promote, I'd be more than happy to do it right here on the date. Okay, here I am. Let me share this tab. And of course, that's my face, folks. Don't you forget it. I have some of your artwork here. Oh, yeah. There we go. This is one of your pieces. It got
Marilyn.
Yes. So this is
on a gilt-edged bicycle.
Yes, Marilyn Monroe on Lillian Russell's bicycle, made by Lillian's boyfriend, who worked in a bicycle factory. So this is Banff, and if you want to see her art, excellent classic art she's got here. This is one of the pieces, and I think, look, somebody actually has your Banff, but you're a second Banff.
No, not. It's probably the same one.
The same? Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because I have someone who has taken photographs,
right,
and has put it on Facebook under Banff. So it's probably mine.
So that might be okay. Let's take
the whole thing could be mine.
Let's see. So, folks, if you ever want to see some art, this is Banff. Maybe there is some of your pictures here, because the world of the internet is so big. Doesn't pop up right away, but you got a few bams. So I hope to at least at some point give a little bit more exhibition on your art because it's also been a hit, right? But for now, I think I had another one from you here somewhere.
Is the Einstein there? Did I do that? No.
Oh, that was me playing on Instagram.
There's Dubai, the Dubai Harbor.
Yes,
From long ago, like months ago.
Dubai Harbor. Ah, there you are.
Yes, yeah, there we are.
There we
a
are.
surfer.
Yes. So this is yours also. Let's see what we got.
Oh, that's
And that's the surfer.
The harbor is vertical rather than horizontal.
The harbor is so is the position wrong or?
Yeah, the position is wrong.
Oh. Okay. Yes, it should be the other way.
It should be horizontal.
Ah, yes, it's true.
That ship.
I will fix that.
Is a
I should
hotel.
fix that. Yes, it is. It's the other way.
Can
so
you rotate it?
I wouldn't be able to right now at this moment. I would have to probably go into the post and edit. Oh, let's see. This is what we do on the date. We do all kinds of great stuff. Let's see. Edit. Can I edit? Can I edit? Can I? As we're trying Instagram here. Huh, imagine that. How did they get your... Did you see that? They know who you are already.
Yeah.
The internet knows who you are. Your name just popped up there. I'm like, what?
I have followers who
You
love the paintings and have taken photographs of almost all of them.
Well, I will definitely try to work on that. Also, just before we wrap up, don't forget, I like to tune into Pluto TV because I'm a sucker for shows like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. Definitely check out Pluto TV. As you can see, this episode here with Joni's first kiss. Let's do a little preview.
Nice meeting you.
Bye. See you later.
Drive carefully now.
Well, there she goes. Our little girl on her very first car date.
Isn't it nice, Howard? I mean, think back to how it was when you were young.
Stop that car!
Be careful out there. That arm is unstable. Not sure how long it's gonna hold. There's warning lights everywhere. Abort! We've lost comm. Look out. It's out of control. Are you okay?
So thank you for joining the date. That was my show. Once again,
Excellent.
come by, take a look at the IUIC. Give a big shout out to all those other tubers out there like Sloan, Bella, and Bishop Nathaniel, Deacon Asaph. Definitely check out what these guys got to say because actually what we did start the show with some sad news actually as to what happening. I'll just give you a little quick excerpt of Bishop Asaph.
Carter's community is still demanding more. 2 protests have been held in Taylorsville in December 2022 and in February for Carter during the most recent protests, which reportedly had multiple law enforcement agencies on the scene. A demonstrator wrote, Rashim's life matters on the street, according to Cajo and photos obtained by Vice News. After the protest, Horn, the town's chief of police, posted a picture on Facebook of a message written in chalk being power washed off. Little cleanup. Horn posted with the hand-waving emoji according to a screenshot of the post obtained by Vice. That was to rub it in your face. Why would the police? They can't give you no information, but they could post, look, we washing this garbage off that you niggas wrote down here. And then put in a hand emoji, a little cleanup. That's a slap in your face. What was really necessary, Cajo told Vice News, referring to the post, we're already a family who is distraught. We lost somebody. Now, go to the family in the report. Y'all going to see what.
I'm just going to
cut. Somebody took that man's head and cut it open. That's the remains, what they found, what was given back. Somebody slit his head open. Unless they got the animals down there, could bite so clean was precision. The animals use a knife and fork. A machine was used to cut this man's head open. Y'all see those images? Okay, for 6 months until they got a private investigator. Now it's being released. His spinal cord was ripped and put someplace else.
Wow.
Like Predator. Predator will take it and rip the head off and take the spine out and everything. The police are telling you animals did this. And animals with precision chopped his head off.
Yeah, I do.
Pull it back, play it again.
You know, the savages I have met are two-legged ones.
Right. They are. So this is
The boy?
that was the young man, and that was Deacon Asaph of the IOIC, who was just given wicked blacks. Because the thing is, this young man went out in an area that was, we understand, probably have the clan. He was working there. He called his mother and said he wasn't sure if he was going to come back, and he was being chased. He went to the police station. They did not help him twice. He stayed in the woods overnight, and next thing you know, he's been missing. And of course, they find him with his skull cut in half and a vertebrae. So
was being threatened by people he knew.
He was dutifully and gainfully employed, just trying to make a living for his young child, and ends up dead, chased by what we believe to be white supremacists, a lynch mob.
In fact, Carter's mother, Tiffany Carter, says he even let her know about it during one of his last text messages to her right before he went missing.
He said, me and the owner of this company not seeing eye to eye, mama. His name, which I can't say at this time, but if anything happened to me, he's responsible for it. I'm too smart, mama. He got these guys wanting to kill me.
But they say what's even more alarming is the fact that someone attempted to use Carter's credit card even after it was determined that he was dead.
And we believe that is a big clue. Think about it.
think about it. Like he's saying, think about it. So basically, at least I recommend you folks take a look at this episode because it's a very good episode. It's very lit. And if you follow IUIC, these guys don't play. They give you the work. They give you the heat.
No, I'm sorry. Go back to where we was in Isaiah chapter 33. We're at the 10th verse.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 33.
Because we just went to where he says that I'm going to hide my face. And until you get afflicted, then you're going to seek me. Verse 10.
Verse 10. Now will I rise, saith the Lord. Now.
And you can't trust no black Hebrew Israelite. Them niggas will attack us and lie on us. The only time they vocal and they loud is whenever to bring controversy to their page or to make themselves look like they the top teachers. They don't give a shit about what's going on in the community. If you look, most of their videos is attacking Israel United in Christ. That's how a lot of them even got famous for attacking us. They don't care about stuff like this. So what do we need? Verse 10.
Now will I rise, saith the Lord. Now will I be exalted. Now will I lift up myself.
So we need now to call on God. We need to exalt God as things are getting bad and conditions exist.
That arm is unstable. Not sure how long it's gonna hold. There's warning lights everywhere. Abort! Abort! Be careful out there. That arm is unstable. Not sure how long it's gonna hold. There's warning lights everywhere. Abort! Abort! We've lost comm. Look out. It's out of control.